The one thing that jumped out to me is as we're looking at the odds, and BetMGM has now posted their home run derby odds, is that the sports books are disagreeing with the seeding. Because nowhere is Luis Robert the favorite, even though he's the 1 seed. Pete Alonso, the 2 seed, is the favorite, obviously, because he's won it a couple of times in recent years. And it does feel like Julio's going to be a very popular bet, and you can only get him at 5-1. He's the 7 seed, and he's right in the middle as far as the odds go. They do agree with Rushman being a long shot, 20-1 over at BetMGM. So I find that pretty interesting. But there's always all sorts of angles. All the sports talk cities that have a player that is representing their city in the home run derby. Oh, is it bad for him in the second half? This is going to ruin his season. Like we're having a lot of the same talking points, but it's, I don't know. What do you look at, Ed? Because I know you ran some numbers, and for me, you obviously have to look at body type. These are all really strong guys, but we see it every year. There are players that have big runs, and then after a while, you see them wearing down. You see them getting tired as the derby goes on. So what sort of stuff do you put into your model in trying to figure out if there's value in the home run derby?
Well, the first thing I do is look at sort of your key power numbers from StatCast and figure, okay, that ought to translate fairly well when it comes to a home run derby because you have the ability to hit home runs when you make contact. And so something like barrel rate is something that I use a good bit in this model. The other thing too, and this was kind of a lesson that I learned from watching the Derby last year, because I actually had Julio Rodriguez last year as someone with some tremendous value, got to the final, but wound up losing to Juan Soto. One thing I find interesting is that seeding might actually matter a little bit more than we want to believe it does. And it's not just because of path, where maybe your second round matchup is a little bit more favorable on one side of the bracket versus another, but also too, if you are going last, then you can win without necessarily continuing to crush home runs. You can pace yourself a little bit more. That doesn't always pan out, but it did seem like that a couple of better seeds were advancing just because they were able to, not extend themselves too much. They still had some time left on the clock, and then they can kind of take it easy once they hit their number and when they won that particular matchup. And so that was something that I took into account as far as the numbers that I liked. And that's the funny thing, Joe, you hit the nail on the head. Luis Robert is the 1 seed, but the books don't have him as the favorite. But when I ran my model, he should be the favorite. And so just that alone at 5-1 on BetMGM, to me, offers some great value. He has the best barrel rate, better than Pete Alonso, better than everyone else. And to me, that number offers some serious value. Not to mention, he gets to go last in his particular matchups because he's the 1 seed. So he can save some energy. That's going to matter here. You bat first, then maybe you're trying to hit too many of them or you're trying to go too quickly. You might wear down as the tournament goes along. So to me, being a 1 seed has an advantage. And if you're not the favorite, then right away you got some value.
I'm going chalk here. We talk a lot about Ohtani and how he's a unicorn and this superstar, but I think we need to pay some attention as well to Ronald Acuna. He is having a phenomenal season, 21 homers, 41 steals, 46 extra base hits, and 78 runs, all before the All-Star break. I believe it's minus 135 at BetMGM, and I don't hate it. I like Ronald Acuna for NL MVP.
I like that one too, because Luis Arraez is, first off, my apologies to everyone who perhaps tailed me as far as considering he could get to a 400 batting average by the All-Star break. That's probably not happening now. But that was just it. Is that was the only stiff competition that Acuna was facing. Not to mention, not only could be part of the 40-70 club, he could be part of the 40-75 club. That's insane.
Yeah.
What he's doing is just second to none. And, comparing to like other leadoff hitters, absolutely Acuna, he's running away with that one. I think that's fine. We on this show talk a lot about Shohei Ohtani and how much of a unicorn he is and how that MVP race is pretty much over. And to me, I think he is in the best position to also win Cy Young more than any other season of his big league career. The biggest problem that he had was just a lack of innings. That's not as much of an issue now. Yeah, he doesn't have the shortest odds, but at 10-1 on BetMGM, his strikeout numbers, the fact that he's just getting a ton of attention, and you don't have too many other pitchers who are sort of stealing the spotlight in this award, I think at 10-1, there's some real value in taking him for Cy Young this year.
I'll admit I am very worried about taking running back overs, obviously due to the injury risk. But you've got me intrigued here. There's a running back that it appears that you're all in on, and you're taking them with some value for rushing leader. And I think I understand why. It appears to be a volume play. Why don't you explain to the audience what you're thinking there?
Yep, we're talking about Ramondre Stevenson, the running back from New England. I like him two different ways here. The easy play is over 6.5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, critical to this conversation, know that Damian Harris is gone and was replaced by nobody. So Ramondre Stevenson's getting all the work. Unless Dalvin Cook ends up there or somebody else ends up there, this is potentially a situation in which Stevenson could lead the league in carries. And he's the best player in the Patriots offense. I mean, they're heavily limited at quarterback, so Bill Belichick's going to run Stevenson constantly. Now, they've got a new offensive coordinator in New England. It's Bill O'Brien. So I looked up some of Bill O'Brien's running back usage when he was the head coach and effectively the offensive coordinator in Houston. Here's his rushing percentages across compared to the rest of the league from his time as head coach. From 2014 to 2019, Bill O'Brien ran the most plays, the most rushing plays. Then he was 12th with Alfred Blue because they had injuries to Adrian Foster. And then Arian Foster. Then they went 7th, 14th, 8th, and 11th. This is when Bill O'Brien he's a run-first coach, and he's going to run the ball. Contract year for Stevenson. And by the way, Ramondre Stevenson is really, really good. Last year ran for over 1,000 yards, 800 of which were after contact. He finished 5th in yards per carry, 9th in rushing yards over expectation. He's the undisputed goal line back. In his 9 NFL starts, he's scored touchdowns in 5 of the 9 games. Over 6.5 touchdowns feels like a great opportunity for Ramondre Stevenson. And if you want a bigger payout, you want a little extra something on the line, if you like this angle, consider NFL rushing leader Ramondre Stevenson at plus 2,000.